I'm able to travel around the country and work with a lot of different rescue missions and homeless shelters, and so I'm here in LA today, here at the Los Angeles Mission, and I wanted you to meet Ken. Ken is somebody that I had a chance to interview. I think you're going to get a much greater depth of insight into how somebody ends up on the streets, and more importantly, how they find hope at a rescue mission. Describe kind of what brought you to the point of being on the streets?
Well, I had gotten out of prison actually about a year ago today. Anyway, I had gotten out of California State Prison and had gotten out of institutions before. Yeah, I was committing crimes to basically support my drug habit. You know, I had reached a level of about $100 a day, and there's just, you know, no job that I know of that could, you know, support that kind of habit. And I was getting stuck in a real bad cycle where I would get arrested, I'd go to jail, I'd do a little bit of time, I'd get out. And so, yeah, you know, I was, you know, stuck in the cycle of homelessness as well.
So when you say you were in homelessness, right? I mean,
yeah.
What is that like? When you say were you sleeping under benches or on benches, under bushes? Tell me about that experience.
Oh, that was horrible, you know, and to the point where, you know, I look back at it now and I don't know how I did it for as long as I did it. I mean, let alone why. I can remember waking up in dumpster areas where they were, you know, secure dumpster areas that are walled with gates, and I would get in there, you know, to keep away from, you know, well, to have some type of safety, you know, so nobody would come up and, you know, mess with me, you know, in the middle of the night while I'm trying to get some sleep, you know. And I remember this one morning waking up and somebody from that office complex had opened the door to dump some trash, and I'm laying next to the dumpster on a piece of cardboard, and I had used a bag of shredded paper for like a pillow. And, you know, it scared him. It scared him real bad because he thought I was a dead body, you know. And I just got up, just kind of, you know, like whatever. But it made me feel really bad about myself, you know, because there I was sleeping with the garbage. And it's you know, there are times when you have like moments of clarity, you know, epiphanies, and you just say, well, you know, this isn't me, you know. It just makes you feel really bad, you know, about yourself. Yeah, especially when you can't find help.
So when you were there, I mean, were you at the dumpster because that's where your food was? How were you eating?
Periodically, I would find, you know, either people that had homes, but they were either, you know, alcoholics or other drug addicts, but they, you know, just had a place to stay. Maybe they're staying at their parents' place or what have you. And you just, sometimes you go days without eating. That's just the way it is, you know, and to accept that lifestyle is it's very, you know, depressing, and it starts to bring on a very negative outlook on life. You know, you start to get bitter.
What does it mean though to get a meal? I mean, for you, when you came in here and you got a meal, was that kind of for lack of a better word, a turning point for you?
Oh yeah. I've gained like 40 pounds, you know, since I've been here. You know, I was pretty bad off. You know, it was starting to take a real toll on my body. You know, physically, I was starting to really feel the effects of it. You know, clothes are, you know, hanging off of you, and you know, you feel sick a lot, and to get good food, you know, and you know, as soon as you eat it, you feel that this is good for my body, you know. It's pretty much priceless, you know. Yeah.
So tell me about how you're different now.
Oh wow, you know, I don't think the same way. You know, I've gone from a negative person to a positive person. I still have a lot of the same problems, you know, that I once had when I was in my addiction. You know, a criminal record. Okay, but I get to face that problem sober-minded, you know, and with a healthy mind and body. And now those problems seem so small, you know, whereas before, with an unhealthy mind and body, it just seemed like I'm never going to overcome this. You know, it was like a mountain, and now, you know, it's just a little hill. Little bit by little bit, I'm getting my life back. You know, that's all I want is a nice, normal, quiet life. You know, just peaceful. Yeah.
But one last question. 1 minute on what God has done to change your life. How has God become more real to you as a result of being here at the mission?
You know, I remember the proverb that someone first showed me, and I thought that I was going to be the first person ever in history to call God a liar. And the proverb is Proverbs 16:3. Commit your works unto the Lord, and He will establish your thoughts. And I remember thinking, all right, God, you know, I got some thoughts that I want established. You know, I don't ever want to think about using again. That was number one. You know, I want to get my life in order. I want to see myself getting a job. I remember thinking that, and I thought, you know, that even God couldn't do it. But I started doing that. I started committing my works to the Lord. I started praying. I started reading the Bible. I started going to church. You know, basically because here, you know, at the mission, that's the structure that you fall in line with. And I started liking it. And God started showing up in little places, in the little places at first, you know. And you know, the more that I've walked with God, what I didn't expect was that He would change my thoughts. You know,
you're a new creation.
A brand new creation. Yeah. 2 Corinthians 5:17. Amen. Yeah, brand new creation. Old things have passed away. Behold, all things have become new. Yeah, God did it.
You know, as you've listened to Ken's story and seen him, and you see how somebody goes from the pit, so to speak, of the streets to now having a new life. This is why the Hope to the Hungry webcast is here. We want to introduce you to stories like Ken's, and we want you to be able to hopefully be kind of prompted to get involved. Maybe break down some stereotypes of what you think happens at your local mission. And ultimately, it's guys like Ken that you're helping as you maybe give some money, provide a meal, or get involved at your local mission, maybe by volunteering or organizing a clothing drive or a food drive, or just becoming an advocate, just understanding a little bit more about what happens at your local rescue mission. And of course, we want you to get involved. So, lots of links here on the website. The ability to find your local mission, the ability to give a little bit of money. We are hoping that you will do that, and we're hoping that you will bring hope to the hungry at your local mission.